Geometrical approach and component algebra, both the things for vectors. And today's lecture we will start with some additional theorems in problem solving in vectors. So we will start with some additional theorems and problem solving methods, as I was telling you. So the first thing we'll start with here is parallelogram law of vector. Yeah, doubts we will do later, okay, because we have to discuss some concepts. Otherwise we always get stuck in the cycle of only doing doubts and we're not moving ahead with the concepts. So I will take a doubt session next time and discuss your doubts and questions, don't worry. Okay. So parallelogram law and related theorems. So given two vectors, okay, of magnitudes A and B, and the angle between them theta, okay, a vector parallelogram can be constructed with A and B as what is called adjacent sides. Okay, from a common origin. So the idea is that if two vectors are known to us, two arbitrary vectors, okay, such that the angle between them is theta like this, then we can construct a vector parallelogram by drawing such a figure where A and B are the adjacent sides from a common origin. So instead of drawing A and B head to tail like we used to do before, now we will draw A and B from a common origin. So from a common origin point, if we draw A and B and then complete a parallelogram by drawing the other two sides which are parallel. So in addition to this, now we draw one side parallel to A from here, one side parallel to B from here, and the resulting figure that we get, that becomes a parallelogram for us. So this is called the vector parallelogram constructed using A and B, because A and B are adjacent sides of the parallelogram and they have a common origin. So now what will happen is that the diagonals, okay, the diagonals of such a parallelogram will automatically become the sum and difference. Of this parallelogram represent the vector sum A plus B, okay, and the vector difference A minus B, such that if we draw the vector as the diagonal from the origin to the opposite side, okay, so this is the first of the two diagonals. So this one actually becomes the resultant sum and this angle becomes alpha, whereas if we draw the other diagonal, what we can call as the secondary diagonal, which is from the head of vector B to the head of vector A, this one. So this now represents the difference of these vectors. So the primary diagonal, that is the one from common vertex to opposite, common origin to the opposite vertex. Okay. So the primary diagonal drawn as the vector from the common origin of the two vectors O to the opposite vertex, this becomes the sum. Okay, and the secondary diagonal, for example here I have drawn it from the head of vector B to the head of A. This becomes the difference, A minus B. So just make a note of this, and then we'll understand that it's very much connected to triangle law that we've learned earlier. In fact, this vector parallelogram on its own, it contains the two triangles which represent the sum triangle and the difference triangle. However, the advantage is here in the same diagram you have both the theorems, the vector sum theorem and the vector difference theorem. Okay, so hope you understood the steps for the construction of the vector parallelogram. Now next thing we'll realize here is that, as I was telling you, the vector parallelogram, it itself contains both the triangles, the sum triangle and the difference triangle that we have drawn earlier. Okay, so ultimately parallelogram law is not very different from triangle laws that we have seen earlier, but it's just that both the triangle laws for sum and difference are combined into one shape over here. That is the advantage of parallelogram law. Okay. So next thing we'll understand here is this, that the vector parallelogram contains the vector triangles of the sum and the difference. Now let's understand how. So just compare this vector parallelogram with the addition of two vectors by triangle law. Okay, so if we were to do addition of these two vectors a and b by triangle law, we would have drawn vector a and then from the head of vector a we would have constructed vector b. So we would have drawn a and b, what is called head to tail, to construct that triangle. So the angle between the two vectors becomes the exterior angle of that triangle. This one becomes theta here, and then the sum would have been represented by the third side of the triangle, which is this. So this becomes the resultant sum, and this becomes the angle it is making with this alpha. Okay. Now you notice that this are same actually. This triangle, it is contained in the diagram here. If you just see these two sides and this is the same thing. It is very much that triangle. Okay. So ultimately there is no difference between these two. This side is b in length, this side is a in length, and this angle is theta. So it's the same vector triangle which you can get by cutting the parallelogram using this diagonal. Okay. So obviously the same formula also holds. And tan alpha is b sin theta upon a plus b cos theta. Now similarly, just like we did this construction, you can also see that if you compare it with the triangle for the difference of the two vectors, you will see even that triangle is contained in this. Okay. So how that is contained, let's understand. Now if we were to construct the triangle to find the difference between a and b, remember what steps we would have done. We would have first constructed the vector a, and then from a's head we would have drawn the vector minus b. Instead of b we would have drawn the vector minus b. So this would have been the vector a, this angle being theta, this angle is 180 minus theta, and this would be the vector minus b. Okay. And then in this diagram we would have seen that the resultant of a with minus b, this one becomes a plus of minus b, or this one becomes the vector a minus b. So once again you will be able to show that this second triangle that we have drawn is contained within the parallelogram. Okay, this triangle here is nothing but this triangle here. So how this diagonal is cutting it. So it's again nothing but the application of the same geometry, but now that triangle is contained within the parallelogram, and therefore the same formula applies, that mod of a minus b So this formula applies same way to this diagonal as it applies to the third side of this triangle. Okay, so now you might be wondering that, okay, if the formula is the same as the triangle law and the triangles are contained within the parallelogram, then why we are doing this whole exercise, why we are constructing the parallelogram? The triangle law would have been enough. But the point is that the fact that we are able to see the sum and difference within the same diagram, within the same figure, means that it's going to be very easy for us to compare the two quantities. So wherever we have analysis where we want to compare the sum and difference, You're going to see that certain special theorems and formulae that will come from parallelogram will help us have sort of shortcut methods of solving problems. Okay, so the whole advantage of parallelogram law is that it gives us a way of comparing the sum and the difference in the same diagram. Okay, so parallelogram law helps in the comparison of the sum of two vectors and the difference of the two vectors by analysis from one common figure, which is a parallelogram. Okay, and therefore special cases and theorems are easy to analyze. So this is basically a problem solving method. This is an additional problem solving method. It's nothing new. We are still dealing with the sum and difference of vectors geometrically, but this becomes an additional problem solving method for us. Okay, so just make a note of this part. Make sure you understand the comparison of the two vector triangles for sum and difference with the parallelogram. Okay, so let's understand some of these special cases and theorems I'm talking about, which become easy to analyze using the parallelogram law. Okay. Okay, so in these diagrams you can see that the parallelogram contains both the triangles for sum and difference. So it's like a combined form of the two theorems, the two triangle laws for sum and difference. Yeah, finished with the noting down part. Okay. Yes, Yash, are you done, beta? Okay. Now let's understand some of these special theorems and cases. Okay. So for example, one thing which becomes very easy to understand from this are the inequalities. Okay, the inequalities related to E plus B and E minus B. Okay. So first of all, for example, you know that the magnitude of A plus B has a maximum possible value of sum of the magnitudes, and this occurs for theta equal to 0. This is the maximum possible value, and the minimum is the difference of the two, and this occurs for theta equal to 180 degrees. Okay. So you can see that when theta is 0, the sum of two vectors becomes like this. This is the theta equal to 0 case. So the sum becomes like this. Whereas theta equal to 180 case is like this now. Okay, but apart from this, okay, also when we talk about, sorry, this should be magnitude. Also when we talk about A minus B is magnitude, this also has a maximum of A plus B, but difference is this occurs when theta is 180. Two opposite vectors, now their difference becomes like that, no? Like that. Okay. So this is the maximum possible value. This is the minimum possible value, but this occurs when theta is equal to 0. Okay. So these are two universal inequalities, but apart from this, there is also the special case of when the angle is acute versus when the angle is obtuse versus when the angle is 90 degrees. So if you compare the three cases, one where you consider two vectors of certain magnitudes, but the angle is 90 between them. Okay. So theta is equal to 90 degree case. Let's compare this with a case where the vectors are of same magnitude, but now I'm making the angle obtuse. So I've taken the same vector of magnitude A, same magnitude B, but made the angle obtuse. So now this same thing will look like this. This has the same magnitude as this one, but the angle theta is now obtuse. This case, or compare it with the case where theta is acute. And immediately by comparing the three figures, you will understand the kind of inequalities involved. Okay, so I'll just show that in a moment. So just try to imagine how you go from the middle figure, the one with theta equal to 90, to this case where you stretched it by making theta greater than 90, or compressed it like this by making theta less than 90. Imagine what's happening to the diagonals, and you'll understand the inequalities immediately. Okay, so if we talk about the diagonals, in this case they are the diagonals of a rectangle. So they are nothing but root of a square plus b square. But in this case, now the figure gets distorted in such a way that the primary diagonal is getting shorter, okay, and the secondary diagonal is getting longer. Whereas in this one, what is happening is the other way around. The primary diagonal is getting longer and the secondary diagonal is getting shorter. So just visualizing the figures helps you understand these inequalities. So if you are to compare in the diagram a plus b for this case, where you can clearly see that it's root of a square plus b square, but compare that with this now. Now you can see clearly this one has become shorter than this, and compare with this one now, the acute angle case, you can see it's become longer. So without getting into the formula of sine theta, cos theta and all that, you can see that in the different cases, here the magnitude of a plus b is equal to root of a square plus b square. So the moment you make theta obtuse, what is happening? That diagonal is getting compressed. So that means it's becoming less than root of a square plus b square. And the moment you make it acute, this diagonal is getting lengthened. So that means mod of a plus b is becoming greater than root of a square plus b square. Similarly, you consider the secondary diagonal now, the one from the head of b to the head of a. See, here it is exactly equal to the primary diagonal. So both these will be equal, mod a plus b and mod a minus b. But in comparison, for the obtuse angle case, ये stretch हो जा रहा है. This is becoming longer. And for the acute angle case, this one is the one which is getting compressed. So it's getting shorter. Okay. So a minus b here in comparison to a minus b here. In comparison to a minus b here. So in this case, you can see that this is equal to root of a minus b. That is the property of theta equal to 90 degrees. At the moment you make it obtuse, now you can see that a minus b is the diagonal which is getting stretched. So it's greater than root of a square plus b square. So that also means that whenever your theta is obtuse, your a minus b has a magnitude which is greater than a plus b. This is less than mod a minus b. Whereas whenever it is an acute angle, then this is less than root of a square plus b square. So you have mod a minus b is less than mod a plus b. So all this becomes very important. So these inequalities are very important in those type of questions that you've seen. Okay. And the parallelogram law just helps you visualize and understand this without any formulae. Just make a note of these people and make sure you understand these inequalities. Understand each of these comparisons. A plus b's comparison here with a plus b's comparison in the 90-degree case. A minus b is mod comparison with this, and therefore the comparison between the two quantities. Okay, so let us look at some example problems based on these things. So now suppose we given an example like this, that magnitude of A is 15, magnitude of B is 20, and the angle between them is greater than 90 but less than 180. That is the angle between A and B. Okay. Then which of the following is or are correct? Okay, so just mark out the correct options. Anybody got the answers? Okay, so I'll put up the correct answers. You just verify. So these are the correct answers. Okay, so let's see how this is working out. So theta is obtuse. Okay, so basically your parallelogram is looking like this. So straight away you can understand that E plus B will become the shorter diagonal and E minus B will become the longer diagonal. Okay, so that means that E minus B will have a magnitude which is going to definitely exceed or be greater than root of a square plus b square. Okay, but it is also going to be less than a plus b. Now why it is said less than a plus b? Because theta is less than 180. It's said in the question that theta is less than 180. And similarly, y is greater than this because theta is greater than 90 degrees. Okay, so that means my mod of a minus b will have a magnitude less than 35 but greater than 25, because you can see that a is equal to 15, b is equal to 20, root of a square plus b square is 25. Okay, e plus b is 35 and magnitude of a minus b is 5. So this is one statement we can say. Okay, and similarly, what statement we can say about a plus b? This is the shorter diagonal, so its magnitude will be less than root of a square plus b square because theta is greater than 90. Okay, but at the same time it will be greater than mod of a minus b. Why? Because theta is less than 180 degrees. It can't be equal to. So that means here magnitude of a plus b is greater than 5, cannot be equal to 5. That is why this is ruled out. This option here. This is ruled out because of this. Okay. And at the same time it has to be less than 25. So it can be greater than 20, but it has to be less than 25. So that's why these two are ruled out. It may be less than, it may be greater than also. Can't say for sure that it's less than. Can't say for sure that it's greater than. Okay. And if you combine these two statements, now you can also see that in general, mod of a plus b will definitely be less than mod of a minus b. Yeah, I've written everything down. Whatever information you need, that's there on the board. Okay, so just go through it. Okay, so people, have you understood and noted down this thing properly? Okay, now next special case we'll discuss. For this. Achha, just one more thing I wanted to mention here. You see, ultimately the inequalities that we have got, they are related to the angle. It's greater than 90 but less than 180. So the inequalities are like this. Okay. Suppose the same thing, the question said that theta is greater than equal to 90 degrees and less than equal to 180 degrees. So then what would have happened? We would have said that our mod a plus b is less than equal to root of a square plus b square and greater than equal to difference of a and b, because the equality is included. But यहाँ पे ऐसा नहीं था. यहाँ पे क्या था? यहाँ पे it was, the condition given to us was this, that theta is not equal to 90, it's greater than 90 and cannot be equal to 180, it's less than 180. So accordingly these inequalities were like this one and this one. So this would have become a plus b is greater than including 5 and less than equal to including 25, and similarly mod of a minus b would have been inclusive of 25, inclusive of 35 for this case. Whereas here, because the case was this, so it's not including 35 and 25, it is not including 25 and 5. So this is a very critical point over here. अरे यश, यही तो समझाया पिछले थ्योरम में. Now you are asking the same thing again. See, what was the statement of this theorem? See this case. Okay. Okay, anyhow, so moving on. Now we'll see some more special cases of parallelogram law. So this is an arbitrary parallelogram. Now next let's understand some special cases of this. So the first one is if magnitude of vector A is equal to magnitude of vector B. Okay. So if this thing happens, then what that means in terms of parallelogram, it means the parallelogram has equal sides. So it is a rhombus. Okay. So in this particular case, our vector parallelogram is the special category of parallelogram, or you can say subset of parallelogram. Okay. It is the subset of parallelogram which is called rhombus. So now rhombus has certain important properties which we will discuss. Okay. The rhombus has the properties that diagonals are perpendicular to each other, and also that the diagonals are angular bisectors. So we will be making use of those properties. So this side is equal to this side and the other two sides. Okay. So then the relevant property from the vector's point of view is that the two diagonals, which are nothing but the sum and difference of the two vectors, and A minus B, the secondary diagonal, they have the two interesting properties, that one is they bisect each other perpendicularly. Okay. So this angle will become 90 automatically. And secondly, they also bisect the angles. They are angular bisectors. So this angle theta is getting bisected by this particular diagonal. So that means in my vector language, this angle alpha is going to become theta by 2, and this angle here beta is going to be complement of that, or 90 minus theta by 2. Okay. So the important properties of the rhombus are that diagonals bisect perpendicularly. So what that means in terms of vectors is that the vector A plus B is perpendicular to the vector A minus B. This becomes an important property. But important property for which case? When the magnitude of the two vectors is equal. And secondly, the diagonals are angular bisectors, or they bisect the angles between the sides. So what that means in terms of vector algebra here is that alpha will be theta by 2. The angle made by A plus B with the vector A is half the angle theta, and consequently beta is 90 degrees minus theta by 2. And using the same thing, we will see another important property which I will derive for you in a moment. We can write this as a short form formula, that A plus B magnitude will become 2A cos of theta by 2, and similarly A minus B will have a magnitude of 2A sin theta by 2, where magnitude of A is equal to magnitude of B equal to capital A. Okay. So these three important properties, that this is perpendicular, these angles are like this, and these values are this, they are coming from, they are for the special case when magnitude of A is equal to magnitude of B, and that is because the parallelogram in this case is a rhombus. So the properties of the rhombus become applicable. So the third point, I will show it to you how these formulae work out, but just make a note of this first, and you will see with solving problems this is a very useful shortcut. It's of immense help. It can really help us cut short our solutions by quite a few steps. Okay, so let us understand the second set of formulae, how they've come. Okay. So that comes by just understanding a bit of trigonometry in this diagram. So now, using the fact that the diagonals bisect each other perpendicularly, okay, so using that fact, diagonals of a rhombus bisect each other perpendicularly. So using that fact, this is equal to this, because this is getting bisected. So if this side is x, this side is also x, and similarly this is equal to this. The two diagonals are bisecting each other perpendicularly. So now if you just concentrate on one of these right angle triangles, you can see that the diagonals are cutting it into four congruent triangles. So in that triangle, which I have just shown over here, you can see that this side is basically A, because magnitude of the vector B is equal to magnitude of the vector A, which is A. Okay, whereas this perpendicular here is Y, and this base here we have drawn as X, and this angle is alpha. Okay, so just use trigonometry here. So you have x by A is equal to cos alpha. So x is equal to A cos alpha, and similarly y by A is sin alpha. So y is equal to A sin alpha, and we've seen before that alpha is equal to theta by 2. Okay, so from this now you can make out that the primary diagonal, which is the magnitude of A plus B, is 2x. So it becomes 2 times A cos alpha, and alpha is nothing but theta by 2. And the secondary diagonal is double of that distance y. So it becomes double of A sin alpha, and again alpha is nothing but theta by 2. So that is the proof of these two formulae. So making use of these special properties of the rhombus gives us some shortcut formulae and shortcut tricks of how to analyze the situation when we are dealing with two vectors of same magnitude. Okay, so hope you finished writing this down. So let us again see an example question or two, show you how this is very useful in solving problems fast, saving time. If A plus B is perpendicular to A minus B, okay, and magnitude of A plus B is magnitude of A minus B divided by root 3. Okay. Then find, first of all, the ratio of mod A is to mod B, and secondly, the angle between A and B, that is theta, and the angle between A plus B and E, that is alpha. Okay. Just try this out, people. So what you need to solve this question is just lying on top of the question itself over here. There is this particular theorem. Okay, so anybody got the answers to this? See, if you use the property of the rhombus, the moment you see this relation here, you understand that if A plus B is perpendicular to A minus B, it means that the vectors A and B make a parallelogram with perpendicular diagonals. Okay, so you realize that that is only possible when the parallelogram is a rhombus. Okay, and that means that magnitude of A is equal to magnitude of B. So the first part actually becomes oral. Okay, so therefore the first part, this is 1:1. Okay, now also okay, now this statement which is given, okay, let's interpret this here. So what this is telling us that 2a cos theta by 2 is 1 by root 3 times 2a sin theta by 2. So this now means that tan of theta by 2 is root 3, which means that theta by 2 is root 3, is 60 degrees. Okay, which means that the angle between the two vectors is 60 degrees. This is your second part. Okay, and also alpha is theta by 2, beta is 90 minus theta by 2. So alpha is equal to 30 degrees. So it all becomes very easy to solve. It's almost directly from the theorem now. So hope you are understanding, people. Okay. So this is how a question like this, which would otherwise, I'll show you how to use component algebra and solve this question also, but that will take longer. So you can see it will become a very short solution. This is just 1:1. This is 120 degrees. So this is 60 degrees. My mistake. This should be 120 and this should become 60. Yes, Harsh, that's correct. Theta will be 120 and not 60. Okay. Okay, understood. Okay. So see, we'll also see that suppose we did not know this theorem, or it did not strike us that the parallelogram is a rhombus, then how we would solve this question? We can still solve it, but it will take many more steps. Okay. So same problem solved by, let's say, component method. We use this. Okay. So given that E plus B is perpendicular to E minus B. Okay. So suppose E plus B is x I cap. That means our x axis has been chosen along the resultant of A and B. Okay. Then E minus B being perpendicular to it, we can write it as some y j cap, because E minus B is perpendicular to E plus B. Okay. And since E plus B is magnitude is E minus B is magnitude divided by root 3, so you can see x is equal to y by root 3. Okay. So back here, E plus B being some x I cap, E minus B is x root 3 j cap, because we can replace y as x root 3. Okay. Now from this we can analyze all these things that are required. Okay. You can see that to do equation 1 plus 2, you will get okay, and if you do equation 1 minus equation 2, you will get the vector B is x by 2 I cap minus x root 3 by 2 j cap. Whereas the vector A is like this. So now from this you can further analyze that magnitude of the vector A is x, magnitude of the vector B is also x. Okay. So therefore mod A is equal to mod B, equal to whatever that x is. Okay. And also you can see that, and the vector A is at theta equal to tan inverse root 3, that is 60 degrees with respect to x axis. And the vector B, now this has a negative y component and a positive x component. So it is at theta equal to tan inverse minus root 3, that means minus 60 degrees or 300 degrees with respect to x axis. Okay. So in the xy plane, our vector E would be looking like this. The magnitude x, and our vector B would be looking like this. Same magnitude, but angle of minus 60. Okay. So therefore you can see that A and B are at theta equal to 120 degrees with respect to each other. Okay. And also you can see that in this we have taken our E plus B to be along the x axis. So alpha is equal to 60 degrees. So this is another way of solving the same question, but you can see that it's more lengthy, more solving is involved. because obviously that rhombus makes things, the rhombus properties make a lot of things direct. You're directly using the geometry of the rhombus, so it's going to be much easier compared to any kind of solving method. So that is the advantage of knowing the parallelogram law, and more importantly knowing the special cases of it. Yeah, noted down. No? That's why. Okay, so that is about this theorem. Okay, now next special case of parallelogram law we'll see. If vector A is perpendicular to vector B, then what happens? Our parallelogram becomes a rectangle. Now rectangle has all these important properties. Equal diagonals. Okay. Diagonals make same angles with the sides. So let's understand this in context of the diagram first. So not only the diagonals are equal, but we have seen the formula for them before. It becomes root a square plus root b square. I mean root of a square plus b square. So the primary diagonal, which represents the sum, and the secondary diagonal, which represents the difference, they become of same magnitude. Okay, and also this angle alpha here becomes equal to this angle beta. Okay, so in terms of vector properties, A perpendicular to B implies that first of all magnitude of A plus B is equal to magnitude of A minus B, something that we saw in the inequalities also, root of A square plus B square. And secondly, that alpha is equal to beta is equal to tan inverse B by A. Okay. And of course you can always think of a third case which combines the rhombus and the rectangle, which is the case of the square. If magnitude of A is equal to magnitude of B, and along with that A is perpendicular to B, okay, then our parallelogram becomes a square, which is both a rectangle and a rhombus. Okay. So it has all these properties that A plus B will be perpendicular to A minus B. Okay. Magnitude of A plus B will become equal to magnitude of A minus B, which will become root 2A in this case. Okay. And alpha will be equal to beta equal to 45 degrees, because theta is 90 and mod A is equal to mod B is equal to A, suppose. So this is like a super special case where all these properties get combined. So okay, yes, you can note it down later when I send you the notes and the video. You've understood the method now. That was the more important thing. In that vector method, in the component method, you understood how we solved. The final steps and all you can note down later. Okay. Okay, so again let's look at a question where we can make use of this kind of thing. So given vector A is of magnitude 16 units, okay, and B is a vector such that A plus B is at 37 degrees with respect to A, and A minus B is also at 37 degrees with respect to A, then find this. Just try this out, people. So you can try this by component algebra method or by or use a vector parallelogram. So anybody got the answer? So see here, when you use the information that A plus B makes the same angle of 37 degrees with respect to A as A minus B does. Okay, so that means you are dealing with a parallelogram such that the diagonals make the same angle, alpha equal to beta. You are dealing with a parallelogram where this is happening. Now if this angle is equal to this angle, it means that it has to be a rectangle. Okay, alpha is equal to beta means that these two sides have to be, it has to be a rectangle. This has to be 90 degrees. Okay, so this means that my parallelogram is a rectangle. Okay. So the moment we know that mod of A plus B is equal to mod of A minus B is equal to root of A square plus B square, because first of all theta is equal to 90 degrees. Okay, and alpha is equal to beta equal to tan inverse B by A. So now I'll use that. Okay, that tan alpha equal to tan 37 degrees is B by A. So 3 by 4 is equal to B upon A, whose magnitude was given to us 16. A was given to us as 16. B was unknown. So B is becoming 12. Okay, so we have all this now. Magnitude of the vector B is 12. Theta is equal to 90 degrees. Alpha is equal to beta is equal to 37 degrees. So mod of A plus B will become 20. So again you can see the question is very easily solved. Okay, whereas I will demonstrate to you, it will take many more steps if we are doing it by the component algebra. Or we can even use the formula of triangle law. So have you understood this this method? First of all, how we analyzed from the given information that it has to be a rectangle, cannot be any other case. Okay, so for example you can also do this by component algebra. So suppose this is my vector E, this is my vector B, and this angle is theta. So take this as your x-axis and take this as your y-axis. So the vector A is having only x component, whereas the vector B is having a x component of this much and a y component of this much. Okay, so now you can see that A plus B is A plus B cos theta I cap plus B sin theta j cap, and accordingly A minus B will become A minus B cos theta I cap minus B sin theta j cap. Okay, so now A plus B is at 37 degrees with respect to the vector E. That means with respect to the x-axis. Okay, so that means that B sin theta upon A plus B cos theta has to be tan 37, and this is also at 37 degrees with respect to the vector E. So that means B sin theta upon A minus B cos theta also has to be equal to tan 37. Okay, now you compare the two equations. So comparing the equations 1 and 2, ये आ जाएगा. Okay, so first of all from this you will see that A plus B cos theta is equal to A minus B cos theta. So that can only mean one thing, that cos theta is 0 or theta is 90 degrees. Okay, once you know theta is 90 degrees, so you know that B sin theta upon A plus B cos theta is nothing but B by A, and that is 3 by 4. So magnitude of B is, okay, so that becomes 12. Okay, and then you put that back over here. So E is 16 I cap and B just becomes Bj cap or 12 j cap. Okay, so A plus B is equal to mod of A minus B is equal to 20. Right, so this is an alternate way of solving it, but as you can see, it involves more solving. So now that we know these special theorems related to the parallelogram construction, okay, we can always make use of these to simplify our solving. Is this clear to all of you? Okay, so please let me know if there's any doubt here. Okay, so we'll conclude here today. Now I'll be sending you another worksheet, which is based on specially questions which are adapted to this kind of inequality type of problems, as well as the vector addition and subtraction involving the special cases of parallelogram law. So try that along with worksheet 3, and next time we will discuss doubts along with component algebra again. So now we are coming towards the end of vectors, so very soon we will be coming to products of vectors, that is dot product and cross product. So another few lectures and we'll be done with vectors after that. Okay, so that's it for today's class, people, and thanks for attending. I will send you the notes and the recording very soon. Okay, and also assignment, so make sure you work out the questions of the new assignment as well as the previous assignment. You try to complete the questions if possible, okay, before the next lecture.